What's up, guys? Pete from the basement. Not in the basement this time. We're upstairs in the penthouse. We are here with Michael Van Cleve. Mike, first of all, welcome to the show. You have a superhero name. Has anyone ever told you that?
You know what? I do get Van Cleve is sort of it's not a common name. So sometimes people ask me, where's that name? Where did it come from? And that type of thing. And I tried to Google it and figure it out. And I think like the closest I've got is like Germany, Dutch something. And I even I even asked this girl that I was kind of talking to on this dating site that was from like another basically like I think she was from the Netherlands or something like that. And I was like, I heard that there are Cleves that come from the city of Cleve. And she's like, I've never heard of anything like that. So I don't know what's going on, but it is a unique name. Sometimes older people say, because I think there was a Van Cleef in The Good, Bad, and Ugly, or some type of Cleef.
Lee Van Cleef. Yeah, he was the bad guy.
Yeah. So
I grew up on Westerns, man. My father was very big into the Clint Eastwood spaghetti Westerns, John Wayne, and all of them guys. So you have written a book called Child of the Sun, which stars the biblical Samson, and he encounters all sorts of other people from mythology and other religions, which is a really cool idea. Like, his best friend for most of the time is Heracles, and applause for using the correct Greek name, as opposed to everybody just calls him Hercules, because that's what's like commonly accepted. But
right.
For those of you who don't know, a little Pete's Basement education for you, Hercules is the Roman equivalent. For some reason, that's like the only bit of Roman mythology that kind of carried over and somehow got the Greek mythology absorbed that instead of Heracles, which was the original. And he runs into this girl, Adrianna. He falls in love with her.
So here was the idea was I wanted to kind of tell a story about Samson. First of all, Samson was always one of my favorite characters in the Bible because he kind of did what he wanted. And like when you read most of the stories, there's some specific instructions. God's like, okay, you're going to do this, or you're going to do that. And I want you to go here, and I want you to go there. Samson did none of that. Samson got none of that. It was like, maybe, he'll help you, with the Philistines, and that's about it. He pretty much did what he wanted. And so I was always like, this character is like, and I don't know too many other characters in the Bible that got what he got, this sort of like strength deal, used at his own discretion. I mean, everyone else had some, very strict rules with what they were going to be doing. I mean, sometimes, prophets can heal people and stuff, at random, but mostly he just kind of did what he wanted for most of his life.
Mm-hmm.
So kind of like that. He was an interesting character and almost like a superhero of the Bible, like
without
Bibles.
question. It's funny you mentioned that because I went to Catholic school. I was raised 9 years, learning Old and New Testament and everything. And my grandmother had bought me, it was like the children's Bible. It wasn't, as hardcore as the regular Bible, but it had these really brilliant illustrations. I wish I still had it. It was actually a misprint because the book was upside down. Like the cover was printed on backwards. But
right.
Regardless of that, that's neither here nor there. One of the first stories that I really got drawn into was the story of Samson. And you open it up, and as it starts, there's a big splash page of him fighting the lion. And I was just like, "Whoa, who is this dude?" And so as soon as I saw that this story, because you open it up and it opens up to Heracles, and I'm like, okay, I'm all for a Greek mythology story, and I thought it was going to be about him. And then you get 2 or 3 pages in, and it's Samson, and I'm like, this is original. Here we go. Like, that's never been done, at least to my knowledge, in the comics realm. So kudos to you for originality.
Yeah, I wanted to kind of tell a story that actually, if I wind back the clock a little further, I just taken the bar exam, and I was actually homeless. I was actually living. I was the guy on the couch for a friend of mine who went to the same law school with me. And
did you kill his dog?
I I did not. I didn't. But I was thinking, what do I do? Because when you pass the bar exam, I mean, not pass, but take the bar exam. There's a time period where, and it varies from state to state, but there's a time period where you have no idea whether you passed or failed.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people freak out. Some people go to like Disney World. Some people go home. Some people get jobs. I mean, it kind of depends on your experience. But I was like, man, well, first of all, I didn't have enough money to do any of those things. Like, not even go home.
Expensive, man. One of my best friends just found out that he passed the bar and he got sworn in this past month.
Yeah.
It was a rough couple of months though. He's sitting there like, oh shit,
is.
Did I pass or not? Three friggin' months they make you wait.
Pretty big deal, because either you passed and you might get some jobs you got lined up, or you didn't pass and you do nothing, or
lose $70,000+ at the very least on law school.
Yeah, and I have a good friend of mine that when I went to law school. Actually, now I'm rolling back the clock even further. I'm really going down a rabbit hole now, but I was at my undergraduate school, which is in Huntsville, Alabama, and I was thinking about what to do, and I was thinking about law school. And my friend said, you should go to law school in Miami, because Miami has a lot of hot girls. And so I was like, I don't know about that. I'm thinking. But eventually I went down to Miami and I was like, holy crap, he's right. Like, I mean.
I went to spring break in Miami, sir. Yes, it's
just kind of ridiculous. I mean, it was a culture shock for me, especially from Huntsville. So anyhow, I got to the law school and there was this guy. His name is Manas. And he's one of my best friends from that law school. But he had already taken all the courses, and he was trying to take the bar exam at that time, and he was waiting on the bar results, and that was in 2004, and he just now passed the bar exam, and he's been taking it and taking it and taking it, and every year we're like, you can do it, Manas, you can do it, And now, I mean, he's a very bright guy, but he basically, had to put a lot of his plans on hold until he could kind of get past. So it's a big deal. And when you're taking the exam, especially I think it's anywhere, you've got all these people, and then some people are freaking out and stuff. It's a crazy experience. But, that when I finished taking the exam, I was like, what am I going to do? And so I was like, maybe I'll work on a story. Maybe I'll work on but at the time, this story was not a comic book. It was a script for a movie. So
there was certainly enough sex in this book that it could definitely win on the silver screen. I will tell you that much. It was, since you mentioned a movie idea, it was not what I was expecting from a comic book. It was, I'm hearing Samson, you've got Heracles. I'm like, all right, we're going to have some strongman stuff. We're going to have God knows what going on that they're going to have to defeat. And the only person that Samson has to defeat is himself. This guy, it's a love story. And it kind of, it fucks with you. It tugs at the heartstrings, man. Like he totally got fucked over. Anyone who has had any sort of love experience in the world knows, dude, you, as strong as you are, you're a weakling. So say we all. I'll drink to that.
I agree with you 100%. The whole story, even the original biblical story, which, I guess, the story is definitely not a literal telling of Samson, right? It's definitely not that. But I think that the heart of the Samson story is still there. And the heart of the original, even the biblical Samson story, it's a love story. And when I read that story, much later, when I started getting the idea, I was like, man, this guy was lonely his whole life, because he got with a girl, or he wanted to get with a girl, and then that didn't work out. And then the Bible just kind of skips all the way to the end, where he meets a prostitute, right? And then that doesn't really work out. And then he meets Delilah. And so he was kind of, to me, looking for a woman his whole life. He was lonely maybe. And it just so happened that the women that he chose were not always the best people to trust.
Sometimes it happens that way, man. You know, if I can quote the Eagles for a moment, don't you draw the Queen of Diamonds, boy. She'll beat you if she's able. You know, the Queen of Hearts is always your best bet. And clearly, he just kept drawing diamonds. Or, like, you know, sometimes some people are unlucky, and shit happens. And how did you go about getting 4 different artists to draw each of the books so far?
So,
and was that on purpose? And will we be looking forward to a different artist in the issues to come?
Yes. So every issue has a different illustrator, except the final issue has the same illustrator from the first issue. So
admittedly, that was my favorite one.
Yeah, issue 7. Mervyn McCoy is the illustrator, and he's finishing up. So I thought that would be good, you know, to start with one guy and then finish with one guy. But 5, 6, and 7, 5 and 6 have different illustrators. And honestly, the idea came from, I was like, man, this is kind of a big project. And at first I was like, I don't know if one guy might have time for it. So in the beginning, it was more of an efficiency type thing. But as it grew on, I was like, you know, this is actually kind of cool, you know, to be able to see how different illustrators interpret the character. And it could give people something to look forward to. I mean, there's going to be some art. I think that maybe some people will prefer one artist over the other, or, you know, something like that. But
always going to be the case. And people will prefer different artists compared to other people.
So
that's a really cool thing. Now, did you know all of the artists? Are they all personal friends of yours, or did you find them, let's say, online, Craigslist, whatever?
The first illustrator, Mervyn, is a friend of mine. He's a friend of mine. I met him in Miami, and I've known him for a long time. But everyone else, I just searched out and just, like, you know, kind of use the energies of the universe and be like, maybe not, you know, and call. And I've just been fortunate that all the illustrators that are working on the project have been really passionate about it, and they really like it. And I think that personally, a lot of, you know, all of them are very talented. And the issues that are coming up, the 5th issue and the 6th issue, have some great illustrators to come. So the 5th issue has AJ Freyna, and the 6th issue has Eli Powell, and he's like a new and upcoming guy, and so they're great. And but I really like all of the illustrators. I think everybody is talented, and so yeah, I mean, I was hoping that could be something that, I mean, it's a little different. And in the beginning, I was wrestling with, you know, are people going to accept the different changes in the story? Because more than anything, I still feel like just a regular guy that reads comics. And, you know, I remember when I was going to college, and, you know, the art would change after an arc. I'm like, this art is crap. And then I just put down the whole book. Like, I never get beyond that point to the story or anything. And even the Watchmen, it took me a really long time to get used to the art before I was finally like, okay, I'm going to read the story. And then once I finally got around to reading it, you know, maybe about halfway in, somewhere about where Rorschach gets taken down, that's when I was really hooked. But it took me a little while. So say art is a big deal. I don't know if people are going to accept it, but overall, I think that hopefully they will.
I think they will, because if they took it like the way I did, you know, everybody's going to have their favorite artist, and that's fine. But it progresses the story in such a way that it's like time is passing. You get a sense of this is a little bit further into the future than the last issue you read. Whether it's a week, whether it's a couple of months, or it's a couple of years down the road, you get the sense that this is something different now. Something new is happening. So I felt that the art, even though it changed, like, I wasn't ready for it from 1st to 2nd issue. By 3 to 4, I'm like, okay, this is a regular occurrence, and I see what he's doing. So it seemed like it was on purpose to, like I said, further advance things, and it brings you along, and it furthers the timeline, I think. So I think people will readily accept it.
So I'm hoping they will, and you know, again, when I first wrote the story, it was a lot different because so I got this I got this idea of like, okay, this is going to be a movie. It's going to be cool. I'm going to write it as a movie, you know. And so I wrote a movie script, and I tried to pitch it, which was incredibly difficult. I mean, I wasn't prepared for how difficult that was going to be. I got like 1,000 no's, but I managed to finagle a couple of people to actually look at the script, including Icon Productions. Like, it's a funny, like Mel Gibson's production company. I was like, you know, I'm going to call that guy. I mean, now, you know, he's like, he's crazy, but I was like, he made Passion of Christ. Maybe he'll make a Samson movie. I mean, he's not that polarizing. He's kind of a cool guy in the Bible, you know? I mean, you know, once you get to Jesus, you got like 3 or 4 different religions all arguing, but, you know, Samson is like, hey, he's just a strong guy. He's a cool guy. So I managed to get a friend of mine to pitch. I called him up. Actually, I called up Icon Productions with this like book that had it was called Hollywood Creative Database at the time. I don't know if it still exists. It had all these numbers for all these production companies and like actors and agents and I called up Icon, and I got the vice president online. After like, but the way I did it was you have to. If you call and say, hey, I got an idea for a movie, they're going to say no to you every time. So here's how you have to do it. So you have to say, when you look,
fans take notes. This is when you want to write this shit down. Go on.
You have to look at like the names of the people who work in the company, and you just have to say, transfer me to Paul. No last name. Very short sentence. Just transfer me to Paul. And then they'll do it.
Very slick.
And so then you don't get Paul on the phone. You get his assistant, you know. And so then, like, you know, his assistant will say, who is this? And then you say, well, listen, I need to speak to Paul, you know, and you just kind of keep it short and say, I have an idea I want to talk to him about. And so from there, one of 3 things will happen. Either they'll say, who are you? That's number 1. Number 2, they'll say, okay. Or number 3, they may say, well, I'll get in contact with him if you give me your email or something like that, you know? And so, you know, you can't really control it from that point. You know, you can put up a lot of smoke and mirrors, but at that point, it's kind of like either they're going to say yes or say no. But it managed to work for Icon. So that tactic worked. And I got in, and her name was Stephanie Huey. And so I got on the phone with her, and I said, you know, will you guys take a look at the story? And they said, oh, we don't know. And she said, if you get a lawyer on the phone, we'll talk to him. So then I called my buddy who had already passed the bar exam. I was like, look, Pablo, you got to do this for me. You got to talk to these people. They're gonna look at my script. You don't know how, like, this is incredibly difficult for me to get to this point. And so he says, okay, I'll do it. So he talked to him, and they read the script, but they said no. And the reason they said no is they said it was too close to the original Bible story, and they didn't think people would like it. And I got a little disappointed because I was like, man, Passion of the Christ. I mean, I remember, you know, Mel Gibson was saying something about like he was trying to keep it really close to the original story, you know. But I was like, ultimately, I'm kind of glad they said no, because now I think that a lot of Christian films, Christian stories, or stories involving like biblical characters, some of them are good, but I think a lot of them are only going to appeal to one audience because of the way that it's presented. And so I wanted to create a story that would appeal to more people, you know, and still use these biblical characters. So I switched it up, and I decided to turn it into a graphic novel, and I started changing things and making it more dynamic. And
is that when you adding characters from the different religions and mythologies? Because that was like one of the coolest parts for me was, you know, we know that these things all happened in antiquity, and there's not really a general timeline on it except for, you know, thousands of years ago. And that's the idea for every single myth you've ever heard, no matter what religion you're talking about. So I like the fact that in this world that you've created, it's all happening at once. So his best buddy is Heracles, and there's all these different gods that they're talking about. That was a really great line when she's got the knife to his throat, and I think it was issue 2 perhaps, and
Yeah.
and she's like, swear to me that you love me on what was it, Athena, Aphrodite, someone, and he's like, I don't worship her. I don't know who you're talking about. And she's like, well, whomever you worship, and she starts rattling off all these different names. And how much research went into this for you to actually pull these names out of hallowed antiquity?
Oh man, I did spend some time on it. I spent a lot of time, first of all, researching the ancient Israelites, because even now, I think that, after like they separated, like everybody, at first they were all together, like these tribes, and they were all together when they got out of Egypt, but then they all scattered. And so I did a lot of research into the ancient Israelites, and I did a lot of research into the Bronze Age, and that Iron Age, and with the time period, the Sea People, which interesting to know, the Philistines that are spoken of in the Bible, there's very little reference to the Philistines in history and in archaeology, but what is referenced is the Sea People. And these Sea People, they trashed the place, man. I mean, they like fought the Egyptians, they fought like all of these ancient people, and they were just going around killing everybody. And they were like, it was a big problem. They're kicking everybody's ass. And so so most historians believe that the Philistines are the Sea People. And there's different theories, but I spent a lot of time. And one good thing is, we live in the digital age, the internet age, and you can just Google everything, and so that helps out a lot. But I spent some time into that, and I spent some time researching some of the different, because I had to show this story to my family too, because for a long time it took me a little while to pass the bar myself. And so I had like student loans and crap, and my phone was like, my mother's like, you need to get a job. You need to.
Dude, I went to art school, man. I feel your pain. At least you're slated to make a hell of a lot more money than I do. So you're in good shape at this point.
Wow, and here and most of the time I was kind of like writing, and working on it, working on this story, and yeah, I had to show it to them just because I was spending so much time on it. And there were a couple of scenes where I'm like, oh, my mother's not gonna like this part, or my dad's like, but actually in antiquity there was a lot of nudity. There's a lot of crazy stuff going on, particularly in the Philistines and some areas of Canaan. They had prostitutes, they had women that did exactly what's in the story. There's the Mycenaean Greeks. If you ever Googled, you could seriously just Google Mycenaean Greeks women. All of them have their breasts out. Like, that was a part of the culture. The breasts are just out. Like, somehow, somewhere.
Clearly, you and I are living in the wrong time, sir. What happened?
Like, they're cut out. They have on like all these clothes, but the breasts are totally like they're just exposed.
You said Mycenaean women, Mycenaean. That's why Mycenaean. Yeah, no, I'm not. I'm gonna Google it for research. That's all for research. Promise.
History, learning history. I'm like, somewhere these guys convinced all these women that it's a good idea and it's culturally popular. They're like, whose idea was that? Somebody had to come up with the idea somewhere.
Giuliani almost had it up here. He told women that they could run around New York City topless, and the only thing that really happened was the women that you never ever wanted to see topless were the ones who were like, yeah. So you give and you get, and you take and you lose some, or something like that. I don't even know.
So I did do some research, and I think some of the stronger parts in the story just come from I think my experiences with some people, and some women, and I tried to humanize, because people demonize Delilah, they demonize her. But I wanted to humanize her and as many of the other characters as possible. Even in the beginning, when they look like, Archie, am I using that word right? Archie. Oh yeah, there we go. That's it. I tried to humanize as much as possible, and particularly Samson's first wife, Delilah, who is in the story just a little bit later on. So You know,
It's
I met,
funny. I wanted to ask you that, and I wasn't sure, but since you brought it up, based on your experiences with people, was there an Adrianna in your life that this is kind of like your story?
yeah,
Are you
yeah,
Samson?
there
We all
was,
have an
and
Adrianna, so it's okay. My hat is off to you.
yeah. So, you know, that I think those experiences kind of really helped me understand who I believe Samson. If he wasn't who is in this story, I think that he was close to it. Like because I don't know. It's just for me. When I read the story, I see a guy who like is always getting rejected or always having problems with love. Not and even the women, because the Bible. A lot of times when the Bible tells us about these people, we get the skeletons of the people. We don't get the full person. You know, it's very very tight on some things, and so I wanted to just fill them out. You know, fill them out, which I think even some major stories, like even big Hollywood productions, don't do very well. And not to say that I did very well, but that was my goal. And I did meet Adriana is a combination of a number of women. Um, in Miami, I think one or two times I went to I went to like a massage place, and I started meeting these women who were like into massages, So I started like getting enamored with those type of women, But they're like a little bit on the wild side too, So I was meeting them and kind of hanging out with them and talking with those girls, and so she's kind of like a combination of different women. But I think also because in the second issue, she explains that she was raped, and a lot of women that are raped, some of them become very defensive towards sex. But there is a group of women that like it's the opposite. It's the opposite, and they try to I don't know compensate by overcompensating, and they become hypersexual. There's a couple studies on it actually that I was reading about women that who are victims of sexual assault, sexual abuse. They become like hypersexual, and in Adriana,
Is clearly
I
one of
felt
those
like
people.
yeah, she was clearly one of those people. And then she's kind of living in a male-dominated society, and I felt like she wants to feel as if she can you know be dominant in that world, even though
You get the feeling
you
that she
know
doesn't really like herself too much. Like she doesn't like what she's doing, but she's almost just so used to it that she doesn't know any other way. At least that's the impression I got from her. Because you do at some point see like some level of sorrow. Like why her friend, whose name escapes me, I'm sorry, but she was like, "Why do you do this to him?" She was like, "I don't know." I don't remember what issue that was, but Samson had just walked in and she was like screwing some other dude or like sitting on his lap or something. Some nefarious shit was going on, and her like he storms out like, how could you? And like he was still cool with it. Like he still like got with her afterward. Like no, I forgive you. And but her friend was like, why do you do this? Why do you torture him? Like he loves you. And she was like I don't know. It's fun because I can. Pick a reason.
and unfortunately there are people that have gone through some things that make that create these sort of personalities that do those things, and but they're still human, and they're not all evil or all bad. They are what they are, and so Adriana is what.
So let's talk covers for a hot second here, Mike. One of the first let's talk issue one. Very kind of purplish blue kind of thing popping up on screen right now. The painted eyes in the background are absolutely beautiful. Very awesome. And you got Samson standing there, just kind of looking a little bit sullen. The hair is all flowing out. Now, did you have the same illustrators who did the interior do the covers? That's always
No,
everybody's first question.
no. So the covers are done by different illustrators, and at first I was like, oh, I don't know, because I'm a comic book reader first, and they used to annoy the hell out of me sometimes. when the cover was not what was inside the book. And it wasn't until after I started reading comics for a long time that eventually I became okay with it. I was like, okay, it's cool cover, because the cover is kind of its own thing, in a way sometimes. And it's hopefully kind of symbolic, or something that happens inside the book or represents the book in some way. Mm-hmm. And then once I became more accustomed to getting a different illustrator to work on every issue, it felt natural to do it. So yeah, the first cover is done by Gani Montez, and Gani Montez, his colors are fantastic. I mean, they're amazing. And he's done a lot of other projects, but the way he uses colors is very, very impressive. And
I'm telling you, man, like you don't even notice the foreground. At least for me, the foreground so much, because it's very monotone, except for the orange smoke that's going on. But the eyes, man, they just pull you right into it's a background image, but it just gets you right there. You almost want to just dive in.
Yeah.
Get opening the book. You want to meet that girl. That's what you want to do. You're looking at Samson like, you lucky son of a bitch.
And that's what I was hoping for, That's what I was hoping for. So, that was the first cover. And second cover, Adam Rosenlund did that cover. And again, that guy's, I think that the covers of this book are almost like the best part of the, like some of the covers I think are fantastic, and I really like
This is one of the hottest covers, I'll tell you right now. Red, Color of Passion. There's obviously a lot of hijinks and sex going on in this issue, as I remember, because guys, Mike was kind enough to send me some digital PDFs, which is how I've got such nice crisp images to pop up on screen for you guys. But I'm sitting there reading this at my office when I during my downtime, and I just turn a page and there's a giant set of tits, and I'm like, okay, let's lower that, and just kind of pop it up on the screen, on the bottom of the screen a little bit, and put it back down if I hear somebody coming. Put it back up, put it back down. It's almost like I'm looking. I mean, people can be like, "What are you reading?" I'm like, "Well, how much time you got?" This is a hot outfit she's in too, man. I mean, this little like bikini crossover jammy that's going on.
But I think
Samson's
it's fantastic. That is my favorite cover, I think, out of all the covers, is that second issue cover. I love that second issue cover. I don't know why, but I was like, Adrianna is like the most important. To me, she's almost more important than Samson in some ways, She drives the story, and particularly in the second issue. So, with the second issue cover, I told him, I was like, look, just do something with Adrianna. Just make her the cover. And I thought he did a great job. Fantastic job.
He did an absolutely fantastic job. And one of the best parts about it too is you ever get like a picture of one of your buddies and they have like some stupid face on or whatever, and you say, oh, this is your personality picture right here. Right. This is your entire personality rolled up into one photo. This is hers, because she is obviously a very sexual being. She makes really no qualms about that. She cheats on Samson left and right, because this is, as we discussed earlier, this is all she knows, and this is what she is, this is who she is, and that radiates completely. If you've never even read the first issue, you have no idea what's going on. As soon as you see this cover, you know what kind of girl you are getting into bed with. You know what is going on here.
Yeah.
You know you're in for a wild time.
Yeah, he really nailed that, man. I was like, man, this is like spot on. I love that cover. Sometimes I just look at it. I'm like, man, that cover's great. I wish I could meet a girl like that.
Remember what I told you about the Queen of Diamonds, man? This is exactly that. This is the Queen of Diamonds. No, these are the kind of girls you want to stay away from. These are the ones Mama warned you about.
It's terrible, I know.
Issue 3 is so much more like comic book dynamic. The others were much more painted, much more subtle. This is just outright action, throw it out there.
Yeah.
And I like the inclusion of the one honeybee as well, to, no spoilers, guys, but to go along with Samson's riddle. Very good.
Yeah. So the letterer did that cover, Lee Walls. and he loves classic comics. He's a huge comic reader, and so I think that that's why he went in that direction. And I would just tell them like, hey, read the issue and come up with the idea internally, and as long as I think that it it matches, go with that. And so that's what he came up with, and I thought it was great.
Very 90s too, like the very bold color, the Samson's facial expression, his hair blowing in the wind, the grittiness of his teeth. It's so 90s image. That's how I'm reading this, and it really it works perfectly.
Yeah, I like that cover too. And then the 4th issue cover, Gani Montes did again, which it's a repeat, so it's kind of breaking my rules a little bit. But I think that he did a great job with the 4th issue cover too. It's emotional in a way. Yeah, it's emotional.
And it kind of calms it down from compared to the first 3 covers. Obviously, the 3rd one is all action and dynamic, but the second one has that intense passion, that intense sexual nature, and the first one, again, you're being drawn in. It's about her. It's about the woman. And that's the first thing that you see, and you realize what's going on with the story. And this is a much different Samson in this book because of circumstances as defined by the cover image itself. He's a different person now because of obviously what's happened. Right. So, I mean, I think he nailed it again. And one reason I asked Gani to do the cover again was just he liked the story. And I was like, man, it's just really cool to be able to work with people who like doing what they're doing, and I felt like because he would do a good job. And I really think he did a great job, actually. So. It's absolutely fantastic. I like the font that you used, too. Did you design the font for Child of the Sun, or was that someone else?
Walls came up with that, and that was his idea, and it was I thought it was a really good idea too. So
I like the inclusion of that. It looks like kind of columns,
right.
Like Corinthian or whatever kind of columns. That's the only kind of column I know. But some architecture majors out there like that's not a Corinthian column, asshole. Whatever, you know what I meant.
Yeah, I think it's great, and it kind of alludes to kind of like Samson's future a little bit. It's like
right, nice little foreshadowing going on there, especially with the 2, like this for the U and Sun. Yeah. Go read a Bible, people. Go read a book. You can know what we're talking about.
So yeah, hopefully people will enjoy this. I mean, we're always living in very dynamic and changing times. I just recently read that there's the whole gravitational, like what they find out in science that you've got gravitational waves which support Einstein's theory, and then you've got these new breakthroughs in quantum physics. And I just read that they've been able to put up like a whole the entire human history on a disc. They can put it all on like a little CD, like a I don't know, something that holds memory.
That's going to last like something like 14 billion years or 14 million years. I think I saw like a quartz disc or something. I think I read about that.
It's crazy. And so I feel like we're living in almost like a neo Tower of Babel world, because in the Tower of Babel story, everybody spoke the same language. So the human race was doing these incredible things. And it's almost like now, I mean, you got Google Translate, the world's more connected than it ever has been. And now like technology is just accelerating. It's just accelerating. And it's like, who knows what the world will be in 30 years from now or 50 years from now. And so some of these older stories, I think that if you go back and look at them, they can give you, they still have a lot of meaning, in day life. So I wanted people to do that. And so that's why I tried to tell the story in a dynamic way that would make people interested in going back and taking a look, instead of just kind of making a general judgment on it and moving on.
Nah, you did a good job, man. Best of luck with it. So let me ask you this one. Since you had mentioned that you had thought of this as a movie first, do you have a casting call in mind? Who would play Samson in the movie, and possibly who would play Adrianna and Heracles? Let's leave it at that.
That's a good question. That's a tough question. I have to. If you had asked me, like, when I first started, I probably would have giving you all these answers, but now I don't know. I'd have to think about it.
My answer to like any sort of like, because Samson is not nearly, he's strong, obviously, he's super strong, but he's not as jacked up as Heracles is. So you're just looking for a dude who's in shape, who's big and strong, but not overly muscle bound. My answer to that is always Michael J. White. Like he to me is like, you got it. Like he was undisputed, never backed down too. I'm sold.
Yeah. I totally agree. Michael J. White is a win every time. I like Samson too. He's a little young, Like that's one thing that I don't know if it's clear in the story, but Adrianna is older than him. She's much older than him. Like it's like she's maybe a couple years older. So she's dominant in that way too. And so I thought it would be interesting to have like a young Samson on the screen and a woman that he's in love with that's much older than him.
You could always cast the kid from the new Rocky movie. His name I always forget this poor kid's name. The Human Torch kid.
Oh yeah, I know who you're talking about.
If you're looking for somebody young but who's still in general shape, I think he could pull it off too. And he's a good actor.
Yeah, I agree.
Right now, his name's popping up on the bottom of the screen there because I'm a hammerhead and I can't think of it, but I see the guy's face just as clear as day in my head.
Me too. Why can't I think of his name? Man, it's bad. But
so wanted to tell everybody how they can find Child of the Sun.
They can find it on Amazon. It's if you just type in Child of the Sun or Michael Van Cleve in Google or on Amazon, you can find it. And the Facebook page has a lot of links to where they can read the story. We usually try to post a link on most of the posts as to where you can grab it on Amazon, and hopefully it'll be on Comixology soon. So
and the Facebook page is facebook.com/Child of the Sun.
No, it's /Sun Child of Israel. Somebody already nabbed Child of the Sun. So
sons of bitches.
No, so Sun Child of Israel.
Sun Child of Israel. That's actually a really cool one too. So you got to win there either way.
So I'm hoping people stick in there at least for issue 5, because issue 5 is almost like a standalone. And I remember showing that story to my dad a long time ago, and he was like, Mike, he's like, this is starting to borderline on the fantastic. And so I was like, good, because
it's still a comic book no matter what way you slice it. So you're gonna have a little bit of that.
Yeah. So that issue 5 is important. So I want to just I just want to see what people think about the story. I mean, as a creator, I feel like it's almost a privilege to get people to read things, because a lot of times, you can create something and you may never see anybody ever appreciate what you create. Even I think some of the greatest creators in the past. So just being able to talk to you about the story, or anyone that reads the story, is to me a privilege, and that's a great thing.
Well, I can tell you, man, I definitely enjoyed it. Like I said, as the kids would say, all the feels, man. I felt bad for Samson. Every time he turns around, he's getting his damn heart broken. And I mean, who amongst us has not had that experience, It is what it is, unfortunately. But I wish I could say that things will turn around for him. But, I mean, if you know the Bible story, shit's not going to turn around for him at all. So he's just going to have a tough life. And he's going to have to tough it out until, I mean, no spoilers here. You guys know the story until the comes crashing down.
Yeah. That's pretty good. So,
it's funny. I never really put it together until your story, the similarities and the parallels between Samson and Heracles. It's almost like these stories were originated from the same general idea. Who the frig would have ever considered that idea? But from the lion to even the destruction of the palace and stuff like that, there are so many similarities. And it wasn't until you put these guys together as bosom buddies that I started to, because I mean, like I said, I've known Samson. I love the story of him, and I know Heracles because I love Greek mythology. And I'm like, you carry the one, and yeah, these guys are like, So was that on purpose? Did you already preconceive that? Like these guys are generally the same character in literature, so let's make them pals.
Yeah, I mean that's exactly what I did, and even I was researching that the cult of Hercules, the first cult of Hercules, was around like 12 or 1300 BC, and so I think that most historians put David around 1100 BC, or somewhere around that. So Samson was a couple years before David. I mean that's right, like the same time period there. So they're all drawing from some from
some major original story that we haven't heard of yet.
Yeah.
One of the best lines I loved from Dogma was, none of the major religions got it right yet, but they've got a good idea.
Yeah. So I'm hoping that, worst case scenario, people go back and they read the original Samson story, and to me that'll be a success if they just go back and reread it and hopefully enjoy some of the, things that are stuck in there, because as the story moves forward into the 5th and 6th issue, I mean, I don't want to do a huge spoiler, but I don't. Damn. I mean, I don't want to spoil it, but there's a group of characters in the Bible that like have drawn just an enormous amount of they have a lot of mystery behind them, and so I was like, man, these characters are so cool. I'm just gonna throw them in the story. And
awesome.
So
I look forward to seeing that. Yeah, don't tell nobody who it is. Make them go read the Bible and figure it out for themselves.
Yeah. So
only
those
a few hundred pages, guys. Sometimes there's pictures. Sometimes, so it's just like a comic book. The stories are so fantastical that it might as well be a comic book. You can enjoy them just as much as any other. So
there are some. Yeah, these characters are really fantastical.
Well, Mike, I can definitely tell you I enjoyed it. I think everybody else will too. So, guys, check out facebook.com/Sonchild of Israel. I got that right?
You did.
All right.
You did.
So, guys, go check that out, and you can find all the links on there. Go check out Amazon.com and search our boy's name, Michael Van Cleve, or you can search Child of the Sun, and it'll come right up. Get yourself a nice digital copy. Any hope for an actual print copy? Will that be coming out anytime soon?
Yes. Hopefully, I was trying to wait until I got a little bit further in the series. I didn't want to. Do you remember the whole the Hulk versus Wolverine when they first started Ultimates?
Yes. Yeah. Oh God, yeah. When the shit was 3 or 4 issues and then it died for 4 years. Oh man.
Yeah, I was like,
oh man, yeah.
That really made me mad. So I was like, I'm just gonna wait until I get almost all the way to the end, till I know it's gonna be finished, and then I'm gonna start printing it out.
That is a good and respectable plan, sir, and I applaud you for it. And so do all the Pete's Basement fans out there.
Yeah,
Mike, thanks for being with us, man, and best of luck with everything. I look forward to the next issue. It was really cool.
Thank you, Pete.
Guys, you know the drill by now. Hit us up. Let us know if you picked up Mike's book, and let us know what you thought. Questions at Pete'sBasement.com, Facebook.com/Pete's Basement, and of course, follow us on Instagram and Twitter. Do you have an Instagram and Twitter for Child of the Sun, or even just for you?
Facebook page for now.
Okay.
Forthcoming on the Twitter and Instagram.
Fair enough. Maybe whenever one of the best ways to get this stuff out there is start cosplaying as these characters. You get a couple of group of friends together, listen, guys, I know you probably wanted to go as Batman or something, but everybody's doing that. We're gonna go as Samson, Adrianna, and Heracles. Just get a couple of bosom buddies and just take care and just do that and run around like Comic-Con or something, man.
That's actually a pretty good idea. Yeah.
Sometimes I have them. Sometimes. It's rare, but sometimes. Dude, man, thanks for being on the show. And we'll talk to you soon.
This is an awesome experience. I can't thank you enough.
Hey, man, anytime. Let me know when issue 5 comes out, and we'll get you on again.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Take it easy, buddy. Guys, we'll see you next week. Pete's Basement is copyright 2015, Ripped Productions and Pete's Basement, LLC. All rights reserved, so go fuck yourself.